Hey everybody, I'm Rodrigo Fuentes from ListenLoop, and I'm here with Jaime from Vettery, and this is a session of marketers teaching marketers. Jaime, please introduce yourself and tell us more about Vettery.
Thanks so much, Rod. Yeah, so I'm Jaime. I run user acquisition here at Vettery. So quick background, Vettery is a hiring marketplace that connects top tech and business talent with growing companies. We're currently operating in New York, San Francisco, and just launched in LA and DC as well. So what I'm focused on here is pretty much, all of our paid user acquisition. So that's anything from like paid social, search, display, retargeting, direct buys. If you see us anywhere pretty much on the internet, that's something that I've set up, and that is what I handle for both sides of the marketplace. So for acquiring new candidates, so job seekers and new employers as well.
Very cool. And to give context for our audience, tell us about your marketing team. How many people are on your team, and how is it structured today?
Yeah, so our marketing team is, made up of a combination of email marketing, ops, analytics, and then, as I mentioned, what I focus on is the paid user acquisition.
Very cool. And when you look at the different ways in which marketers go after user acquisition, it seems that more and more people are being very metrics driven. So I'm sure Vettery is also has a strong metrics focus. So what kinds of metrics are you using to track the results of your marketing funnel?
Absolutely. And to keep things simple, I'll focus on the candidate side here of our marketplace. And quite similarly to probably, any product or service, analyzing like leads to, marketing qualified leads, things like that. More specific to our product, I'm looking at, day-to-day and weekly, what I optimize on are total registrations. So in that case, the number of candidates that apply to our platform, and then the qualified registrations. And then, of course, for like a longer-term analysis, I, of course, analyze revenue-generating events that occur down funnel. But for my day-to-day and weekly breakdowns, I'm looking at those two key top-of-funnel events.
So I imagine that as you're looking for channels where you want to reach these prospects, these are the metrics that you're looking at across channels so you could really compare apples to apples. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. So, as a marketer, we're always hunting for good channels, better channels, and I hear you're a big fan of Quora advertising. I'd love to learn more about that. Tell us why.
Absolutely, yeah. So definitely as a marketer, always looking to scale, the existing campaigns that I have running, on the existing platforms, but also, with scaling, you always want to check out, new platforms out as well. So it's super exciting last year to find out that Cora had released their ad platform in beta. So, that was something that, I applied to join pretty early on. Thought it would be, a great test to run, just also given the nature of our user base and the level of engagement of Quora users. I was really, eager to test. The format of the ads were also interesting to me. They kept it super native. In fact, it's just a simple like text ad, headline, and the ad copy itself below it. They're pretty strict about the rules even for the formatting of that. You can't have any exclamation marks or all caps. It's like very, very natural. So we did a small test there, and I'd be happy to kind of like walk through, how you set up a campaign on there and how the targeting works and things like that.
That sounds awesome. I would love to see how it works. Maybe you can walk us through creating a campaign.
All right. So in terms of creating a campaign on Quora, it's pretty straightforward. We use the conversions objective. So in that case, we put their pixel on our site, and we can set the conversion, that we want to optimize for. Pretty cool. They also rolled out app installs as well for any mobile advertising. So we can walk through a quick test campaign here. So here we'll just name the campaign. And it's at the campaign level that you set the daily budget. So we'll just put in $100. Again, you want to have your pixel set up first. Similar to any other, paid social or ad platform, you can start advertising right away or, set a fixed time frame. And at the ad set level is where you're going to do your targeting. So ad set 1. I personally like to actually break out, the targeting by geo at the campaign level. And that's because that's where we're setting the daily budgets. And if I want to scale something up or down, I can, do so at the campaign level on Quora. And then also, just keeping things clean and separate for looking at stats and things of that nature. But in terms of the targeting, this is pretty much where you can go in and select your topics. So it's pretty cool is that when you're selecting a topic on Quora, so let's say it's, software engineering for us, it will show, your potential weekly impressions. You'll probably want to layer that with, the geography. So let's say New York. You can choose desktop and mobile. And again, it'll show you the weekly impressions. But what's cool about being able to drill and kind of do a little bit of due diligence on your end about the topics is that if you were just to go into your own, Quora account right now and look up the topic, software engineering, you can see the content that people are actually, engaging with, questions that people are asking, who's answering those questions. I feel that it's a bit more transparent than some of the other, paid social networks where they have kind of like interest-based targeting and, it might be someone interested in software engineering, but you're not, it's a little unclear as to what that entails, right? Like, does that mean they liked a page or followed someone that, had that interest? So here it's quite transparent. And this is the first time I'd say that I would recommend, doing this sort of topic-based or interest-based targeting. So as far as setup, it's quite straightforward. You choose your topics, and that you can import them as well. If you have you did your research and spec'd it out offline, you can import them in, and then the locations you can filter in there, and then of course you set your bid. That's totally up to you and your model. We'll just put in $4 here above the range that they suggest. This is some copy that they just put together. So that's pretty much what the format looks like. It will show promoted by your company name. Again, full disclosure, this is not an ad that I put together. This is just a preview that they're generating. Mm-hmm. And then the way that will appear in the actual feed is that, if someone is in a question or a thread that is tagged software engineering, because, right, that's the only topic that I chose for this example. If they click that, and obviously, our ad gets served and, our CPC is on point and it's actually getting picked up. Mm-hmm. It will be shown directly below the bolded question and description area. Mm-hmm. And it all feels very native. And there's nothing that's jarring about it. It's very highly targeted to the topic itself, as long as you as the marketer obviously doing your research and choosing your topics appropriately. Mm. And they, so once you set up the ad here and publish, you can import from an existing ad as you move forward. So it's, pretty easy to go in and edit. So that's a feature that I actually really like, because you can carry over right, the headline sentence and the body text, but it allows you to edit the landing page URL. So if that's something, right, that hopefully you're using UTM codes or some sort of tracking codes and you want to swap that out, you can easily do that. I know that, that's definitely a complaint I have on some other platforms where perhaps you can copy an ad, but you can't actually edit the link. So here, that's a feature I really like. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. You publish it, it runs, that works quite well. Yeah.
Very cool. Let me ask you, you mentioned a couple of things. I wanted to let you finish, but there's so many questions that I have. One is you made an interesting distinction between topics versus Facebook interested in categories, let's call them, right, on Facebook and a few other social media networks. What do you feel is the granularity that the topics-driven approach allows you to achieve? I mean, is it granular enough for you? Have you run into cases where the topics perhaps are too broad?
Well, that's another area for experimentation, right? So it all depends on the objective of your campaign. If it's a branding campaign and you want to go for those broader topics, that makes sense. And also from a testing perspective, if you do want to see more direct, ROI and sign-ups, like a direct response campaign, go for those targeted ones, but obviously, that sometimes leads to a smaller audience size and it's harder to get impressions and things like that. But that's where you can break out the different ad sets and, test out different CPCs for the broader versus the, more specific topics. I'd say, though, they're quite relevant. You can get pretty detailed with that. And again, if you're doing your research properly on Quora, let's say you're in those threads and you can, find a trend as to how people are tagging things and apply that to your campaigns, you can do quite well. Something that's definitely, missing from the Quora platform now, and I'm quite sure that it's on their product roadmap as they, plan to launch for, the full rollout to the public, but that would be reporting that is by topic, right? So that's something that would be, of course, super helpful to the marketer, being able to, see which topic is being most effective, and that's, no different than, keyword level reporting on AdWords, right? So definitely something that someone at least that's managing this or overseeing it on a day-to-day basis would want to have that information. So I would imagine that that's on the product roadmap for sure.
Right. And you kind of make me think, I wonder if when you select topics, you're really selecting all of the questions. It's essentially, it is possible that your ad will appear under any questions tagged under that topic. I think is that right? That's
correct.
Okay, so it's not as if you get to choose which questions you'll advertise against.
Correct. I mean, at this moment in time, you are unable to do, a question, a specific question, or
question-based.
Yeah. And I know, that's something we've actually chatted about, right? Possibly having a boosted post type situation, or
right.
Perhaps that's on the roadmap, or, hey guys, friendly suggestion. Shout out to our friends at Cora. But yeah, so, that's definitely, I could see that, the product going in that direction. But right now it's strictly topic based. And yeah, you don't have the option to get that granular.
And what it makes me wonder, do you ever worry about the kinds of questions that are being tagged under, let's say, software engineering, which, perhaps are inappropriate to your audience?
We haven't run into that yet. Having a suppression list or, kind of sites blocked when we have, retargeting display campaigns, that's always, something to be mindful of. But I think, Quora as a whole does a very good job at, maintaining the quality, of the platform themselves. So, we haven't run into any instances of, that being an issue, because I feel like that, outside of the ad platforms, like just the actual, operations and that functionality for the social network itself is handled quite well. So, yeah, that again could be another great feature to have added in if we were able to suppress based on, certain keywords within the chosen topics.
Well, it also makes me wonder about where Quora lies on the spectrum between targeting consumers versus targeting business users, right? And on that spectrum, I'll say, let's say on the right hand of the spectrum, targeting business users, LinkedIn's targeting parameters and sponsored update ad network seems to be very squarely on targeting business users. And let's say on the left hand of the spectrum, we've got advertisers like maybe Instagram, right, or through Facebook, very squarely B2C, business to consumer type targeting and advertising. Where do you think Quora falls on that spectrum?
I would say somewhere in the middle, right? It's definitely, it feels very B2C right now. It just depends how you're using it. I think it's definitely a broader play for B2B. And B2B is a bit trickier too, just with any sort of direct response campaigns. When you're doing something that broad and not necessarily like account based, but I can see it definitely fitting into the business's digital strategy, whether it's to like complement campaigns that they have running. But I guess that it would err on the B2C side.
Yeah, I think I agree too. In fact, it'd be kind of fun. I'll have you play consultant, okay? Since you've used the platform, and now you're Jaime consulting at extraordinarymarketingagency.com, and I'm coming to you, and I'm going to represent the typical audience of this blog and video, which are B2B marketers. Okay, let's say I have a piece of software, SaaS. I'm a B2B marketer. I want to get in front of B2B marketers in my space, and to make it something that everyone understands. Let's say I'm at Salesforce. Everyone understands what they sell. They sell a CRM product, right? And now, help me walk through. How do I think about Quora Ads? How do I choose my topics and whatever other targeting parameters perhaps are available to coordinate a campaign that's going to help me drive results?
All right, yeah. So you're trying to market, marketing automation software from Salesforce. There's a ton that you can do that's even just topic based. I mean, one, again, it's doing your due diligence and seeing what users are talking about, just the same way you would go about kind of growth hacking that and doing that organically to either participate in those threads, right? The same sort of threads you'd want to, let's say maybe as like a sales rep, go in and engage with those conversations. Those are the same exact, areas you want to target. So at the very basic level, you could include Salesforce in like the topic itself, CRM, things like that in your broader based ad set that has these very, large audiences, but also not super highly targeted. What you probably want to do is find, I would imagine your ideal customer profile is a growing company. So maybe a company that just got funded, Series A, seed stage, and they're currently using MailChimp, or they're sending out emails, by hand right now. There's no automation, and they're either the ones asking the question on Quora, like, hey, we just raised our first round. We're starting to implement, our sales team and marketing and operations and things like that. What tools do you recommend, or where that sort of that dialogue, and you back into it that way. See how those questions are tagged. Could be, again, startup marketing, marketing automation. Again, these are the broader base terms that you'd probably include in that first ad set. And then, for the more granular ones, you can kind of do some competitor, targeting as well. So, if you're looking at some of the other platforms that are out there that are, on par with Pardot, right? Marketo, HubSpot, things of that nature, back into it that way. So again, I would say that the approach you take is your research is the same, process you would be taking to engage with Quora organically. That's how you can, extract that value.
That's great. And earlier, I want to follow up on a comment you made. You said something like, looking at Quora's users are very engaged. And it got me thinking, what is it about Quora's audience that you like? Why do you feel it's better to reach that person on this platform as opposed to when they're on Facebook or while they're browsing the web generally?
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, important to have some context there, because the ad will only be served when they're in that specific topic. And if their mind is, let's say, on answering a very specific, question about engineering or things like that, that's the mindset that they're in. So you also have to take like a, psychological look at like the user's behavior and what they're doing at that moment. Sure, like obviously we see, success outside of that on the more like display and other paid social channels, but that added bonus there is that, not just for engineering, right? It could be, relevant to whatever product or service you're promoting on there, but they're very engaged in that specific topic. Like that is the topic that's on their mind at the time. So, that extra level of relevancy can only help, drive the click-through.
No, that's a great point. Well, my last question for you here about Quora and your journey with using Quora advertising is whether you've been measuring the impact of the ads as we discussed at the beginning, and how is it performing relative to some of your other channels?
So, it's definitely performing well, given that it's, still part of our strategy. And, as I mentioned, I had, just started using them as a test. And, I've been able to scale that out quite well. And again, that's all related to the metrics that I outlined earlier, and that, in terms of like customer acquisition cost, that it's been scaling quite nicely. And I'm excited to see, as they launch to the public, I believe in June, what features they'll be including and things like that, because so far, definitely off to a great start.
That's great. And I'm kind of wondering, is this the kind of channel where you say, hey, this is so awesome, I want to allocate new budget for this? Or is this where, someone else in the advertising world is going to have to lose a little bit of the overall pie? You're going to rebalance some of the existing budget around?
That definitely depends on just the situation of whatever, the company's marketing budget is, whether it's here or elsewhere. Basically for us, if, something's working really well, we'll scale that if it fits into the budget appropriately. That's why, I'll have these very defined metrics and look at them cross-channel. And, as we expand into new cities, I would definitely include Quora as part of that strategy without, having to take budget away from, other platforms. But yeah, it's pretty much all performance based, and right now, it's doing quite well for us.
That's a great note to leave on, but I can't help myself. You mentioned performance based. I'm curious, would you recommend Quora advertising for a brand awareness type campaigns?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, with like breaking out the different ad sets of the broader topics versus the more highly, targeted ones, I would say, for sure it would be worthwhile to set up an ad set with those broader based topics, have that set up with a, obviously a lower CPC set. and give that a test, because one, the weekly impressions are obviously going to be much higher if it's, a very broad topic, and then, back into those numbers, whatever makes sense in terms of, your company's budget, and what you can allocate towards branding on that. But yeah, definitely worth a shot.
Awesome. Jaime, thank you so much for your insights. This has been another episode of Marketers Teaching Marketers. We've been here with Jaime from Vettery, and she's been sharing some of her wisdom and experiences on the Quora Ads Manager in beta, which will soon go into public release. It sounds like June 2017. So, for everyone out there, give it a shot and let us know what you think. Jaime, do you have any final words for us?
Definitely agree with you. Definitely worth giving it a shot. All my fellow marketers out there. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Jaime. All right, everyone, take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Bye, guys.